the producer. Who the funk are you? You're the sound creator, product maker, and music writer. The sound creator. People come to you looking for a sound. It could be companies, it could be artists, major labels, ad companies that need a sound for a particular commercial that they're going to be showing on television. It could be an artist from around the corner that needs you to produce that sound that represents the area in which you guys come from. And, they got a situation they can go, get it placed possibly. Or they may pay, put it out independently. However, they're still going to need you to create that sound for them so that they could create their stories on. It could be a television show that needs that theme music at the time, and you got to bring that life, that vision to life, that dream that they have in their mind. You're the one who creates the music, the sound for that, the backdrop for that, so that artists can pour their stories on. And, the music that speaks to the heart of people. You are the creator of that. You can create score music for films, a composer. You make music, you make sound. You're also a product maker. These companies use these advertisements, these commercials to promote a product. And so that they're buying a beat from you. It's a business, so that your beat is a product as well. So you have to look at it as that. That's what the pie is about, so that you can see how much your music is worth once it's generating royalties. From television and film music specifically, in this case. But also you could create a product for a record label who may use it differently. They may generate royalties from radio. They may generate royalties from different places. It could be a situation where you get a publishing company that places your music in a video game. Well, it works very differently. But you still created the product for these companies' products. So you are a product maker as well. You're also a music writer. In television music, you're considered a writer, even if you're doing instrumental beats. When I get paid from ASCAP, they pay me my writer's share. If I get the music placed to a publisher who already is claiming the publishing share, I claim my writer's share. So in that case, I'm getting paid as a writer because I wrote the music that is being used, that is being published. However, in a situation where I get it placed myself directly through a network, there I would receive my writer's share and my publisher's share, because I'm the publisher and the writer in that case. So that's what you are: the sound creator, the product maker, and the music writer. Your job, your career is in creating sound, creating that theme music that resonates, that speaks, that gives people the right to write their stories to, that gives them the vibration that delivers the vision to them so that they can visualize that song, and the music helps bring it to life. You're also that product maker that helps these companies sell their products. It's all about music. So you create that product. You are the biggest product maker in the world. The whole world needs music. Music makes the world go round. How I got in the game. It's funny, I was working a 9 to 5, and I was making quote unquote good money at the 9 to 5. At the time it was like about $30,000 a year. And I was working overnight. And I mean, it was for a pretty good company. This company I seen go from 300,000 something members to 1.4 million members in the year and a half that I had been there. So it was pretty good. They paid good, the benefits were good, the hours were good. I only worked 4 10s, so that left the other free time for me to do my music. And anything else I wanted to do had some guaranteed money coming in. It was what we would call a good job, man. A good job. I was making the bank. I was able to buy some extra equipment, things like that. Get my gym membership, take the ladies out. So it was all good, man. It was all to the G. And then one day, we changed managers. And I worked the night shift, so the managers that I had before this last one, they were all good, they were all cool, man. They didn't trip, you know. I just came to work to do my job. This was just something I was doing, you know. In the meantime, I did get comfortable though, so I wasn't pushing the music as hard because I was making some cool money, just, you know, working 4 nights a week. So when, you know, the manager for the night job, the two before the last one, they were cool. I mean, you need to micromanage me. I'm good. You feel me? I mean, it's nighttime. Ain't nobody really calling in. It was a customer service job. You know, it's all good. So this particular manager though, man, he wanted to micromanage me, man. I think he had something against me. I don't know. But I ended up getting fired, man. I got fired. They let me go. But it was cool because I told myself that was my last job anyway. And I actually planned it out, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you the truth, okay? Damn it, I planned it out. When I got that new manager and the manager was a straight up asshole, I said, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I get fired so that I could collect unemployment to do my music full time. I had just heard about television film music and I was like, I'm getting into that game and I'm gonna get it. As soon as I decided to go in the direction of making music for television film, that's when my whole life changed. Opportunities started coming from everywhere. One of the first opportunities I had was with my television film music mentor, Fingers McGee, who at the time was just getting his music placed and actually had been doing it for about 3 years. So let me say that he was just starting to receive his 5-figure checks at the time, and he was telling me his experience with it. He was the one that filled me in on how the publishing game worked, how the deals were mostly structured, where the money came from, and how much my beat was worth, what I would be getting back in the event that it was placed. So I linked up with him and submitted some tracks to him as soon as I quit my job. I had already been doing it while I was working, but this was what put it on overdrive. I didn't start receiving my first professional placements though until about 3 months later when I linked up with another television film music producer who would become a mentor to me as well. His name was Romy. I met Romy at a studio out in Phoenix. And this studio was a studio I started working with when I linked up with a rap artist out here by the name of Trap House, who's a buddy of mine. And I went up to the studio on invite, and I didn't know who was gonna be there. West Coast Cam ended up being there, and another producer who had been producing for a long time out here, definitely a mentor to me out in Phoenix, Arizona. Shout outs to Cinematic. As soon as I linked up with Cinematic, we started vibing on music. I had met Cinematic back in year 2000, probably about 2002, when he was doing music for a mutual artist out here that I was doing music with. So seeing him again was dope, and him telling me that they were involved in television film music, I was definitely trying to get down with what they was doing. So he introduced me to Romy, inviting Romy to the studio one night. I played tracks to him, and Romy dug what I was doing and let me know that we could form a co-writer partnership, which is where I would do some of the tracks for the publishing situation that he had, and he would get them placed for me. That was my first introduction into the publishing game, a co-writer situation. And I'm gonna get more into it later on in the audio, but I just wanted to let you know that, you know, that's another way of getting in the game that a lot of producers don't know about, but it was how I got on, and it was forming a co-writer partnership with a producer who was already involved in the publishing situation and could get my music there immediately. The pie. Okay, so what is the pie? What does it mean? The pie could be looked at in 2 ways. Number 1, as an acronym for your personal interest of equity, or number 2, just like a pie. You could slice it and dice it in many different ways to cut it up and share portions. Because every time you make a beat, you're not only just making a piece of music, you're creating an asset, a piece of intellectual property, a creation out of your mind that now exists and can be shared with the world and traded commercially. So you own something. In the event that your track is, let's say, placed in a television show, it's going to generate what's called a performance royalty. And a performance royalty is split into two halves, one being the writer's share, the other half being the publisher's share. The writer's share is going to go to the one who created the music, the composer, the producer, or if there are lyrics on it, that person too. The publisher share is going to go to the one who actually got it in the hands of the production company or the television network, basically the middleman. The publisher is an entity who already has relationships with these companies. So they're already in contact with the music supervisors for the television networks and the film production companies. So in the case that they bring your track to a film network that uses it and that show airs and it broadcasts, then it's going to generate that royalty, and they're going to take their righteous share of the publishing half because they published it for you, while you're going to get your writer's share, which you could be a self-publisher too. You could publish the work and keep more of your pie if you'd like to, but that would entail you having the right relationships in place with the music supervisors of these film production companies and also in these television film networks, so that you could get your music placed. It's really all about networking. But like I said, in the sense of you getting it placed with a publisher, you're going to split that share, that writer's share you're going to keep, and they're going to keep the publishing share. If you do want to keep more of your pie, like I said, you have to get those relationships on your own. For me personally, in my personal experience, the first time I ever got a professional placement, I had to split a piece of my pie, and it was worth it because what came from it. And even in some of my current situations, I still split pieces and shares of my pie so that I don't have to worry about getting the relationships that are already there. I was told by a great mentor of mine, actually the one who got me my first television film placements, Romy. He said, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And that is the truth. Because if you got beats just sitting on your hard drive that you own 100% of, that's great. But if they're not out there working for you and generating you income, then they're just collecting dust bunnies when you could be collecting money. Yeah, so basically, for a recap, just so you have a great way to reference the pie. It's all in perspective. Look at it like $1 or 100%. It's usually good to look at it like money because that's what it is, but percentages as well. So 100%. And remember, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Don't be scared to share. That's why it's broken down into shares. So if you do have a situation where you're able to share a bit of interest of your property with someone, your intellectual property, the asset that was created out of your mind, your heart, and your soul, why not do it? If it's a great opportunity for all parties involved, it's a win-win. So yeah, that's basically how the pie works. TV music, how you get paid. I remember when I first got my track placed in television, the first track ever. It was for the Tyra Banks show. And I wasn't there when it aired to experience it, so that was kind of weak sauce. But I did get the call from my girlfriend at the time. She hit me up like, hey, I just heard your track on the Tyra Banks show. I was like, get out of here. No, you didn't. She said, yes, I did. And I was like, how you know it was mine? I know your music. Okay, so I believed her. And then, so my mentor who had linked me with the placement, at the time, I remember him telling me, hey, make sure you watch these shows because they're going to be using the music. They picked it up, and when they pick it up, they use it. So I was trying to look, and that time I didn't catch it. But I did find it hours later. I looked on the computer. It took me hours and hours. I looked up the episode. I'm going to try to find it and make it accessible to you so that you can see it. but man, it was a beautiful feeling. And so that's when I first learned how the money was made in television music, when I first got my royalty check. My mentor told me, the same one that told me 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. He's the same one that told me that it would take about 9 months to see my ASCAP check. And actually I got lucky because it only took 6 months. So two quarters, I was already receiving the return on my investment, which was nothing but my time and energy doing what I love to do already anyway, which was sitting down and making a beat. So I turned the beat in, as I said, and it generated that. And 6 months later, it was a few beats I turned in, and a few of them got picked up, but that was the one that ended up on my royalty check for the first time. And it was only after 6 months, and it was for $36, right? And I know you might be like, $36, that's nothing, but it is something, because it was something that I did love to do, and it would have been a beat that just sat on my hard drive otherwise, but now it's in a whole catalog of music that's going to be used over and over again, as long as it's suitable for the scenes that they're using for this television network or these shows. So, and it was only for a few seconds. It was only for a few seconds of music. It wasn't that long. It was under a minute of time that I got paid $36 for it. So it was pretty amazing to experience that, and to see that on my first royalty check. I got it the same day I moved to Cali. It was directly deposited into my checking account, because I have it set up to where ASCAP is going to deliver it right into my checking account.
And see, I've seen my ASCAP checks go from $36 to thousands of dollars, in which I still receive residual income now for beats that I did years ago. But I get money every quarter just because I took those beats that were sitting on my hard drive and I put them somewhere that could generate me income for generations to come. And keep in mind, this is just a beat that has been used for a few seconds at a time, and every time it's used, I'm gonna get paid for it.
And so, as I said, it's really up to you how much money you could generate, because the more music you turn in, the more music they're going to use, especially if it's in good quality. If it's in good quality and you have a bunch of music to use, then you have a catalog of product as a music producer that you could license to these television companies, who will pay you for every time that they use it behind the scenes of their shows. And as I said, if you're a publisher though, you get that upfront sync fee. And we're going to discuss the sync and masters later on in the course. But for right now, if you did publish the work, or you work with a publisher who's willing to split that with you, you get paid that sync fee as well, which is what they pay in order to use the music for the television. So that's what the upfront fee would be if you did get paid an upfront fee. As I said, there are some cases where there are publishers who will collect the upfront fee and not pay you that. They'll keep it themselves and just pay, and you guys still split 50-50 of the royalties. They get the publishers, you get the writers. So I've gotten music placed on television shows like TMZ, Extra, Ellen DeGeneres, Phineas and Ferb, the cartoon. I've gotten music placed on the George Lopez show when it was going on, Judge Mathis, Ellen, Millionaire Matchmaker, Bait Car, Bad Girls Club. I can go on. And as I said, the more music that you have, the more great quality music that you give them access to, the more money that you could generate from just television alone. Because they're always using the music. I'm still getting paid from television music I turned in a very long time ago, years ago, when I first started. If they play a Tyra Banks show, a replay, if they just went and happened to have a replay this season, then I would get paid royalties for that, generated from the performance royalty, which is when my music is used, or when your music is used in television specifically. So I hope that clears it up. I know that was a mouthful, but I'm just trying to, get it across so that you understand. So just to recap, whenever your music is used in television shows, it's going to generate a performance royalty that is split into two halves, one being the writer's share and the publisher's share, in which, depending on how the track is placed, that's what's going to determine how much of the share you actually have. So I don't mean to be redundant, but I want to get it across to you. If you went with a publisher and they placed it, it's usually a standard 50%. But if you did it, then it's actually going to be you own 100% of the whole pie. So it's really up to you in how the music is placed. But I'm going to say it one more time. 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So I hope you understand the TV money and how you get paid. There could be an upfront fee depending on the situation you got worked out with the publisher, if you're going through one, or what you work out with the network that's choosing to use your music if you go to them directly. When it comes to television ads, that's a whole nother case, because there are advertising companies that want to advertise their product, and they need music to do so for the commercial. So they're willing to pay you $20,000 and up for it, and that's just up front. Sometimes it could be a little less. Movie trailers as well. You can get paid a lot for movie trailers. There was a producer who actually he got a track placed in 30 seconds of music got placed in the trailer, and he got paid up front $12,500 just for that 30 seconds. They licensed 30 seconds of his music, and who knows how much that generated on the royalty end, because that trailer, in order to promote the movie, was going to be played over and over and over and over again in different outlets, and probably even international, depending on how big the movie was going to be released and promoted. But man, that's just to give you an idea of what you could be making just from changing how you look at money being generated from your music. We're taught in this age that it's usually generated from a major record deal, or a deal with a major label, or artists picking up the beat, or even selling it online. But there's a lot of money that could be made in the landscape of television music. Film music, how you get paid. With film music, I have yet to get music synced to a film. Yet I do have music producers within my network, and some who are even mentors of mine, who have gotten music placed in film. And they've been able to tell me how it works exactly. So I'm able to give this information to you so that you could understand, another way, another avenue to make money from your music, which is getting your music placed in films, because films need music to help paint the picture, to help bring the picture to life, to add color, to add character. And that's what you do as a sound creator and a music writer. You help the screenwriter and the director and everyone. You help the editor. You help everyone involved in the project bring the emotion of the film to life by the music. So you get paid up front, usually, with that. And it could be anywhere from $3,000 or more. There's been people who've been paid hundreds of thousands for a film project, depending on how big the film is. But in indie, from indie and up, it could be anywhere from, especially with independent film, it could be as low as $500 and more. There was a publisher that I've dealt with who says he's done music for independent film projects, small film projects, for as low as $500. But there's been other producers who've gotten music placed in film and have gotten thousands, or a few thousands of dollars for doing so. Because music is needed in everything, especially when it comes to films. I mean, if you go to the theater, which you don't make money in the theater though. So if your music is, let's say, if your music is in the new the new hit movie that's coming out this weekend, then you're not gonna get paid for it being streamed and played at the theater. Not in the United States anyway. No royalties come from that. The only performance royalties you would receive from the movie is if the movie were being aired on television or the soundtrack. I do want to add in as well, in the case that your music is used from the film soundtrack, if they use it for the radio, then you're going to get paid from that as a royalty as well. So as long as your music is used in that film and then on the soundtrack, and the soundtrack plays on the radio, and maybe it plays on TV, and the soundtrack sells, and maybe even single digital downloads, you'll receive royalties from that. But in the film, it has to be one of those films that is using that music for all of that, which in the great situation, if it's especially a major film who says, hey, I'm going to use that track, and more than likely it'll probably be a song in this case, but it could be a beat as well too. They could just say, hey, I want that instrumental, it works perfectly, we have this much in our budget to pay you. Like I said, it could be anywhere from $500 from independent, or it could be somewhere as a major type of deal, which is, it could be $100,000. And that goes back to the television ads too. But yeah, just so you get an idea. Performance rights organizations, or the PROs. We could just call them the pros. So the pros, these are the organizations that collect your money for television music or any music that is used and is generating some sort of a royalty, specifically a performance royalty. So, for example, there are 3 of them in the United States. ASCAP is the one that I go through. There's ASCAP, BMI, and SESAC. Those are the ones that I'm familiar with as far as the United States. Whatever country you do reside in, I suggest you look up the ones that are in your jurisdiction. So you probably want to Google search, if you live in Canada, for example, what is the performance rights organization for Canada? Or if you live in the UK, and so on, wherever you live, there is an organization out there that is willing to collect your performance royalties. So whenever your music is used in the commercial broadcast, it's going to be generating money, performance royalties that need to be collected. And basically, the pros have a relationship with the networks, and these networks, these television networks, or these companies, whatever companies that are going to be using your music, they have a relationship with them that says, hey, your writers, we're gonna pay you a lump sum of money every so often, so that I could use the music of your writers. So if I'm me as a producer, for example, signed up with ASCAP as a writer, they're going to be able to collect money on my behalf, and they're going to already had paid ASCAP to do so. So they already have a budget worked out with ASCAP saying we're going to pay you this much, like I said, every so often, so that we could use Brahma, aka Brett Cleveland. We're going to use him as a writer, and we're going to report it whenever we use his music. So depending on how much music is used, the PROs are going to be collecting. So even as if I'm signed up to them as well as a publisher, they're going to collect on my publishing behalf as well to make sure that I get the publishing share of any works that is generating a performance royalty. And they're going to, as I said, collect upon my behalf. So you want to make sure that you're signed up in order to even make money, in order to even be able to enjoy that slice of your pie. You got to make sure that you are signed up as at least a writer with any one of the performance rights organizations. You have to just pick one. You can't be signed up to 2 at the same time. You can only choose one to collect your money. So choose wisely. I chose ASCAP because they pay quarterly. I know that BMI, I hear they pay bi-quarterly. I'm not very familiar with CSEC structure. because I knew I was gonna go with ASCAP just because I had planned to so long ago, and I finally did because I needed to be able to collect my television money now that I was going to be a professional producer for television film music. So if you want to be a professional producer and get paid for your craft, you want to make sure that you're signed up as a writer, at least a writer, if not a publisher as well. If you do plan to place music and publish it yourself, to collect that publishing share, you want to sign up with a performance rights organization to make sure that they're collecting that money for you. But as I said, the television networks and all these companies have deals worked out with the PROs to license music. They already prepaid for it. And once they use it, they're going to go ahead and report it on what's called a Q sheet. And they're going to send that Q sheet over to the performance rights organization that represents you to let them know, hey, we use this much music of Trauma Burma, so pay him this, and then they're going to disperse that money to you in that next quarter. And as I said, being that I'm with ASCAP, my first check came 6 months after, and I got paid every quarter after that. Ever since then, I've been getting paid every quarter. There hasn't been a quarter where I haven't been paid. And as I said, it fluctuates, so it could be something that's low. My first check was $36. That was the lowest ever, and that's the only time it's ever been that amount, that low, honestly, to be completely honest with you. And then it can go up to the thousands. I've seen quarters where, my checks, they did have, 4 figures on them. I've seen mentors of mine who have been turning in way more music than me, and for longer, who have royalty checks that are in the 5 figures. So, it's really about how much work you're putting in and how many connections you do have and how much of the pie that you actually have. But once you do get your music placed, that's how you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid from the performance rights organization. So ASCAP being my pro, they make sure that they pay me every quarter direct deposit. Some people like it directly, deposited. Some people want it by check, sent in the mail. I tell them to just deposit it into my checking account. And I went with ASCAP because I wanted to choose ASCAP, especially because they pay quarterly. And, I like to see my residuals quarterly. I hear BMI does it differently. They do it bi-quarterly. I'm not too sure, whatever fits you. I'm not too sure with CSAC either. I know at the time I did my research, I ended up doing ASCAP. And when I did that was about 5 years ago. So you want to do your own research, choose the one that works out for you. But at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones cutting you the checks for the money that's being that's being generated from your music, the performance royalties. They're going to be the ones collecting on your behalf and making sure that you get paid for whatever music is used, how frequently it's being used, and how long it's being used. Placements. When I got my first placements, I didn't go the direct route, which is getting your music directly to the music supervisor and, claiming your publishing and your writer share. Instead, I had a co-writer situation where a mentor of mine invited me to co-write some music and get it placed. And he would get it placed for me through the publishing company that he was connected with. So I eventually grew to get my own relationships with the publishing companies so that I could submit my music and get my full writer share as well. Which, I would grow to eventually gain a few different relationships with these publishing companies who would already have the relationships to walk the music right into the door for projects that I could only dream of producing for. Such as, having my music placed on MTV, Chloe and Lamar. Or even, having my music on Judge Mathis. Or, the Tyra Banks show. Opportunities wouldn't have happened like that if the publishers weren't already there in place to put the music there, because they already had the relationships. So there is, usually 2 ways to get into this game, which is that direct route. choosing to go to the music supervisors directly, you want to be sure that you have your publishing in place and your writers in place with the performance rights organizations. So that means you have to be signed up with them as a writer or a publisher, and you can only go through one of them at a time. So once you do that and you do choose the direct route, you're going to claim and collect your publishing share. They're going to collect it, but you're claiming it. So they're going to say, hey, you owe the publishing of Trauma Brahma and the writers of Trauma Brahma for using this track in your movie or your television show. And so that's how it works with that. I would have to make sure that if I'm going to go directly to them, that I'm going to need that in place. And also, I'm going to want to build solid relationships with these people. I'm not going to just spam them. Hey, listen to my music, get it placed. That's never really the way to go. You want to be about them because this is a project that they're in charge of providing music for. And they're going to want the best quality people and the best quality music to work with. And you want to make sure that your personality and attitude is just as great as your music is presented to be. So, dealing with people is what you're going to be doing. This network is based on relationships. It's really all about who you know. And when you connect with people on certain levels, it doesn't matter. Your music is going to get used because you have that great relationship with this person, and they're going to want to use your music. They think your music is great. They think you're a great individual. Most of my music that I've gotten placed, all of the music I've gotten placed have came from great relationships and great networking with people, following up and doing what I said I was going to do, providing opportunities for them, letting them know that, hey, I can take care of your musical needs. You can depend on me. What are you working on? How can I be of service to you? Looking at myself as a producer who provides a product and a service for different kind of consumers. In this case, the television, the television networks and the independent films or the major films even, and music supervisors being the ones who are looking for the right piece of music to place into this project that they're working on. I want to make sure that I have the right music for them and that I have the right attitude for them as well coming to the picture, and that I'm going to be working for them because it is a project that they have, and I want them to use my music. So I'm going to be working for the best interest of them so that I can get my personal interest of equity overall, which is going to be my righteous share. Whether it be, like I said, going through the publishers, you can get the 50%, 50-50 split, or you can get the whole pie. But remember, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing, especially if it can get you to where you want to go quicker. Usually that's what happens when you work with a team, and you divide those shares up amongst people who can get the music in the right situations and in the right hands, so that you get the right credentials at the end of the day, and you're paid royalties, residual income. But basically, yeah, those are the two places, the two ways to get your music placed, is going directly to a music supervisor or going to a publishing company. And the publishing company and the music libraries, they basically pay you for volumes of your work. Basically, there's usually, in any situation I've been in with the music library and music publisher, they didn't provide me with the upfront fee. It was usually negotiated that they kept that fee, and that I get the royalties at the end of the day. But there are other future situations that I'm working on, and present situations to where there are co-publishing situations involved, where I co-publish the music and I still get a part of the publishing share and that sync fee. So, it's really about what you negotiate and how you position yourself to make money in this industry, because there's different ways that you can go about it that are going to lead to different ways that pie is rationed off and portioned, so that you make you make the necessary moves in the necessary music. You're going to get the necessary money, and that's how it happens. That's how the placements happen. Great relationships, and making the right moves and putting your music in the right places to generate income forever.
Licenses. When you produce a track or write a song, you automatically own the copyright from the moment and date of creation. When the song is then recorded and it's turned into an actual form of, medium, it's put into a song, a MP3, a wave, whatever it's bounced down to, that's when it becomes a master recording. So at the time of creation, there's a master recording and there's a composition. The composition is the underlining lyrics and melody written by the songwriter and the music producer. And the sound recording, which is actually the studio recording of the song, that's done by the producer, writer, and the performer. So when the track is licensed by a production company, such like a film producer, they want to use your song in their work, they must contact you because you're the owner of the sound recording and you're the owner of the lyrics, unless you did the song under a record label and they own the master works, then they would have to contact them for the master license so that they could license the master recording of the song. But if they just wanted to use the original melody in the music before it was put into the form of a song, then they could actually get the sync license from you. In most companies, they're going to go with producers reproducing music that sounds like major productions, like top 40 stuff, so that they don't have to pay that major fee for the master license to be able to use it in television, film. They would need to get that from the record label, and the record label is probably going to charge them a high fee just to be able to license it. So that's why the television film industry is great for up and coming producers, because it's so open to the music that you have. Their budgets aren't to the point where they could hire a Britney Spears or a Snoop Dogg or a Timbaland to produce a track, or a Dr. Dre, or anyone like that. So they're looking for producers that could produce just as great and music at the same caliber for a lesser fee, so that they don't have to pay anything major on that master license, and to get that sync license. To even have to go through all that. That's why it's best to be a producer in this day and age in the television, film, music industry, because the instrumental beats that are sitting on your hard drive, you could license that to be synced to the a film or a television show, and you can get paid royalties for it forever. Whenever you're working with a publisher or a music library, you're granting them the right to administer your sync and master's license. So that's why it's important that you own the full copyrights of the music, or you and whatever writer that you have that you're splitting shares with have the ownership of that music fully. Because if a record label owns it, or if it's a sample, then it's going to have to get clearance. But in television music, you don't want to use samples anyway, for that same reason, that the masters and the sync license is going to have to be, it's going to be required. And if you're not in a position to administer it, then don't use it. You want to use the music that you own the copyright to, so that you can, you have the full control over where that music can go, how it can be used without running into any problems. So, just wanted to make it clear so that you understand that when in the situation with the publisher, you're giving them the right, the exclusive or non-exclusive right, depending on how you set your deal up with them. You're giving them that right to administer a license on your behalf for the masters and the sync, that they're going to make sure that you get paid as being the original creator of your works. So I hope that makes sense to you.
If for some reason you still have questions, the best thing to do is you can email me, trauma@traumabeats.com, or you could do a little more research on the difference between a master license and a sync license and what a composition is in the language of copyright law. Deals. There's different type of deals in when it comes to the music for television and film. There's non-exclusive publishing deals and there are exclusive publishing deals. So the non-exclusive publishing deal, what that does is it grants the publisher the right to be one of many in the television, film, music industry who could represent your tracks and titles, the ones that you assign to them, only the ones that you give them the rights to do so. And it's non-exclusive, so that means that you can go to other publishing companies and license those same tracks. If you decide to, they would just retitle them. And there's different feelings about how the retitling works. And some people say, some companies or some people even think that it's not a good thing to do or a good practice because you're using the same music and you got it with this other publisher. Why would you want to put it in another publisher? And it could, lead to a conflict of interest. But me personally, I believe that you should be able to use your music wherever you want to, especially if it's non-exclusive. That means that, it's just like licensing a beat online. That artist could use it, but there are other artists that could use it as well. You should treat your music like that with companies when it comes to non-exclusive publishing deals. So for example, there's a non-exclusive publishing situation I have with a publisher who accepts my music, and once they do, they retitle it anyway. So I could bring it to another publisher and give it to them under the titles that I have, and they may even retitle it as something else because they're going to be the ones that title it anyway, especially if it's a non-exclusive publishing deal and not like a co-publishing situation. So there's that. Then there's the exclusive publishing deal where it grants the publisher the right to be the only one to represent your music for the television in film industry. So they could be the only ones to represent the titles that you assign to them. So if you sign 500 beats to them, then they're going to be the only ones that are going to be able to represent them. So you couldn't give them to another company to use in television, film. It would be a conflict of interest and a breach of contract. But if you give them exclusive rights, then you want to make sure that they're the only ones using them. So, it's really up to you. Me as a producer, I like to have leverage, so there are certain tracks that I would sign over for non-exclusive deals to make sure that I could use them in other areas, because what if I want to go with 5 or 6 different publishing companies who work with different television networks and production companies? They have different relationships to get my music in other places that this one can't. Or what if there's another publisher that's more suited to the type and style of beats that I do, then I'm going to want to go with them. And what if they're providing me with a non-exclusive deal as well, to where, I could even take my music to other places and keep doing it that way. Whereas even with an exclusive publishing deal, though, it has its benefits in the sense that maybe the music is worth more, and if you go with a company who has high-level clients, and they may require that they're the only ones that use the music because, they're so authentic and original, and they just want to be the only ones to use it, but they got the budget for it. That's a good thing. So it's really up to you, what situation works for you. But those are usually the deals you're going to be approached with. And I could say I worked on both ends of it. There's been companies that I've assigned the rights to represent exclusively, and there's been companies where I've assigned the rights to represent non-exclusively. And for me, I like non-exclusive, but exclusivity is good in the right circumstance, as I said. If there's a film company that's like, hey, we want to be the only ones to use this track, and maybe only for a few years. Usually it's only that because it's licensing. Like anytime I did an exclusive license, it's only been for 3 to 5 years. Non-exclusive is usually 3 years anyway, but it doesn't matter because it's not exclusive. It's not exclusive to them. So you have the right to use that music in other publishing catalogs. But where the exclusive rights, I've had that in some of the higher shows, the higher paying shows I've got placed on, it was because I've let them use the music exclusively. So like I said, it's a win-win situation either way you go. It's really just about the circumstance and what works best for you. If you want to have non-exclusive, which gives you the more freedom to do what you want to do with your music, or you could have exclusive, which, you know, holds just those titles you turn into them. But keep in mind, that's only in the realm of television, film, music. So even if you did an exclusive deal, let's say I do an exclusive deal with this one publisher, they do 5 tracks. That doesn't mean that I can't put these same tracks on a CD and sell it myself. It just means that I can't get them licensed in television and film because I'm giving that company the exclusive right to publish them in that arena, that area of the music industry. But like I said, if I want to release a CD and get that song placed on the radio, I could do that myself, and I won't have to worry about, even with the exclusive deal with them, even if that song's in their catalog, they're only able to represent it exclusively for television, music, and film, and maybe video games and whatnot, depending on what kind of contract I have with them. But that's the way it goes with the non-exclusive publishing deals and the exclusive publishing deals. I hope that really, really clears it up for you. Cue sheets. Cue sheets are basically how you get paid. Whenever you do a piece of music for a production company, whether it be a television show, network, or an independent film or a feature film, they're going to need the track, the amount of music that they used and where it came from, and what organization that writer and composer signed up with so that they could get it to the right agency to collect on your behalf. So to give you a live example, when I do music for publishing company A, and they get it to the television network, the television network is going to say, hey man, we want that piece of music. So they're going to use that piece of music, and they're going to use, let's say, 1.5 minutes of it on this show. Once they use that 1.5 minutes, they're going to have to record that on what's called a cue sheet. So they write it down and they say, hey, it's 1.5 minutes of the fireworks beat. And that fireworks beat came from Trauma Brahma, and Trauma Brahma is with ASCAP. And he's with this publisher A. So publisher A is going to get, and this is what's going to be on the cue sheet. Publisher A gets 50% publisher share. So we'll make sure that whatever performance rights organizations that publisher is connected with. So ASCAP is going to, let's say, is going to collect for that publisher. And for me, I'm going to make sure that ASCAP is going to collect my writer share. So they're going to write Trauma Brahmas with ASCAP. So then that's what's going to happen. But if I'm with ASCAP as well as a publisher, and I didn't go through a publisher to get the music placed, then on that cue sheet it's going to say Trauma Brahma Music Publishing. That's who published it, directly with the music network or the production company, wherever. And it's going to say on the writer's share, Trauma Brahma, because I also wrote the music for the track. So the cue sheets are what keep record of the usage of music, and they send that to the performance rights organization so they know how much that you get paid out, how much of the pie that you earned as well. So if you look at it as musical cues, you do a cue of music, and every time you do a cue of music, you're going to get paid for however long that music played for. You get paid for how long it's played. This is another reason why your music must be registered with the performance rights organizations, so that it's kept, a record is kept. So with the publishing company, if they register the work as Fireworks Beat with ASCAP for me, then ASCAP's gonna make sure that whatever they put that Fireworks Beat in, that I'm gonna get paid for that. Or if I register with ASCAP as Dream Maker Beat and I get it placed in this independent film, then that production company, whoever's in charge of cueing the music, making sure that the music is accounted for, they're gonna write on that cue sheet that's gonna be sent to ASCAP for me. It's gonna say Dreammaker beat was used by Trauma Brahma, and he's gonna collect Trauma Brahma Music Publishing as his publisher, and he's gonna collect his writer's share. So yeah, hope that really clears the air for you, because that's how you're gonna get paid, and you want to make sure that your works are registered so that they match up with the cue sheets that are going to be submitted to these performance rights organizations that are going to need to know that in order to collect the right money that you got coming back.